Welcome back to another video, guys. I have a feeling, I was thinking about this, I have a feeling Bijan Robinson's going to be the best running back in the league next year. I know his production has been top 5 running back already, so it's not that crazy to say maybe, oh yeah, Bijan Robinson's going to suddenly jump. It's not going to be like that type of scenario where it's going to be like, oh yeah, he's going to be a crazy big jumper, and he will start being from a low tier running back to a high tier running back. You obviously spent a premium pick around him, on him, which is like top 10 pick on Bijan Robinson, and you expect it to invest some of your future on this, right? But in terms of like actual way this roster is constructed and the free agency moves they can make, and just how these guys have some free agents going into the thing, I can definitely see this happening. And with Stefanski now, I think that can definitely happen. You see Stefanski winning 2 Coach of the Years, and I don't think Stefanski's a bad coach. And you see what he did with Nick Chubb. He had some of his best years in Cleveland, obviously, right? Because that was when he was one of the best running backs in the world. But in terms of like actual like production, it was Stefanski, right? Stefanski was coaching that team, and if you really think about that, right, maybe that's in for Bijan, because Stefanski is, again, an offensive-minded coach, and with some of these experiences he's had with Nick Chubb, maybe you can really elevate Bijan Robinson's career. And you saw that with some of these other guys, Saquon Barkley obviously leaving to a better team and to become really the best running back in the NFL, unanimously. But Bijan will probably step in and probably be one of those guys too, because he obviously put on crazy numbers. He rushed for 1,400 yards plus this year, and maybe if you develop him, run the offense through him a little more, maybe you can get a better, and with maybe get a better offensive line, because you can always use more offensive lines. And there is a struggle though. You don't have your first round pick, and the guy you spent your first round pick getting is in jail, or was in jail and bailed out, and is now his like future's in the air, which obviously is not the great idea in the world. But we're gonna focus the offense today, not the defense. And I made a video about Kyle Pitts a little bit ago, but I'm gonna talk about Bijan Robinson today and just how this roster is constructed, and more like Kevin Stefanski too, because I feel like he can really tap in Bijan's potential, and just eventually just using this idea to push the narrative that Bijan Robinson will be the best running back in the NFL this year, and I think I can stand by that. So if you look at Bijan Robinson's stats, right, he ran for over 1,400 yards, and the reason why is because they used him a lot. And the thing is why I would believe Bijan Robinson would be have a little more success than sometimes Nick Chubb, and Nick Chubb ran for a lot of yards in Cleveland, is because Bijan Robinson, right, was really good everywhere on the field, right? Nick Chubb was really good in between tackles and in between the gaps. He had great vision. I think Bijan Robinson, it's not ridiculous to say that Bijan Robinson has better vision than Nick Chubb. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but Bijan Robinson is more threat on in the receiving game and has better vision outside of the field. And in terms of like actual consistent play, Bijan Robinson, with not a great offensive minded coach, had a 1,400 yards, 1,400 yards. Maybe you draft high on Bijan Robinson this year, because Nick Chubb, 2019, I don't think Stefanski was coaching, but with Stefanski, he had over 1,000 yard seasons, right? And then he had the injury, which sucked, and then he came back from the injury, and it was never really the same. And then in Houston, it was okay. But in terms of like actual like ability, Bijan Robinson was taken 7th overall, 8th overall, and he has more ability to play inside. He can play more ability in the pass game too. It's just, I feel like if we're talking about purely rushing yards, right, there's more fast and accelerance and better cut speed with Bijan Robinson. It's not ridiculous to say that Bijan Robinson has more cut speed and more better change of direction than Nick Chubb did. I know Nick Chubb was considered one of the best running backs in our generation, not in our generation, but in like the 20s to 2020 to like 2019, 2018 to 2023. He was obviously one of the best. But Bijan Robinson is not even 25 yet, and he's already putting up numbers that Nick Chubb was putting up at 25, right? Or 25, 26, 27, right? But at one point, you have to realize that maybe Bijan Robinson wasn't utilized correctly either. And if he's not utilized correctly, he already has 4,500 rushing yards, and plus the all-purpose yards, which is over 2025, which is over. He almost had 1,000 yards receiving, which is over 2,000 all-purpose yards. That's crazy. Chubb can be anywhere on the field. Chubb wins consistently, but I think Bijan Robinson can win more. And he is also very good at reading the tackles and reading the defense. If you can just watch him, play, he's so good at just cutting out, right? There's just so much good aspects in his game. And in terms of like actual consistent play, he was really good this year. And he already looks better in the power slot or in the duo. Spread looks with lighter boxes. He just if he gets tapped into the run schemes that Chubb had, it honestly might even look better, right? At one point, it might just even look better. And his cut and explosion is just so elite too. I know I've brought this up. His cut and explosion is just so elite, and I just think that taking him like just this well, and seeing this right here, it's good. It's like over 1,000, 2,000 yard all-purpose yards. Like, right, it's crazy. And in terms of like actual usage, Bijan Robinson uses more. Like he doesn't need like 24 to 45, 24 to 35 rushes, right? With Nick Chubb in his prime days, he was getting used a lot. Like he was literally like the bell cow, right? I'm not saying Bijan Robinson isn't the bell cow. Obviously, he is the bell cow because he's like a top 3 running back in the league, right? But in terms of like actual usage, sometimes he doesn't get that many games, right? Or he gets 14 to 20 carries, right? Which Nick Chubb was getting more than 14 to 20 carries. If you look at his splits, in some of his seasons, right? In 2020, let's go 2022 for example, he was getting 22 carries, 23 carries, 23, 26, 24, 24. Like he was getting a lot more carries. And if you look at Bijan, right, he was getting 18, 14, 20. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's stints, right? There's stints where he's getting more, but Nick Chubb had a harder. Had less production with more carries sometimes, right? And that gets a little inconsistent and a little worrying because eventually that injury was bound to happen, right? But if you look at 2021, like one of his best seasons, 2020, 20, 21, 22, 23, 17, right? So there's a lot of carries. But if you look at Bijan Robinson 2025, he was getting, there was only one game over 20 plus. I don't know. There's a little more, but there was like 4 or 5 games over 20. And Nick Chubb in some of his best days, he was getting a lot of usage and a lot of just straight up, just a lot of carries. And sometimes that's not sustainable. And I think Bijan Robinson, if he gets a little more carries, maybe he can really accentuate and really grow. I think there's so much more room and so much more upside for Bijan Robinson. But and also there's more upside in some of the pass games. So if you look at both of their stats for the pass games, really he never got over 300 yards. Bijan Robinson had 800 yards this year. That's like he has 4 times like the highest this year in not even his prime yet. He has over 4 times as much as Nick Chubb, which is kind of crazy to me because you really don't see that much like it's more upside in different types of receiving duos and or more different types of lineups. You can line up in the slot. You can also line up in the backfield, and there's always a threat of him catching and going. And a 10-yard average and 4 touchdowns receiving, plus all of his little wins here. It's crazy. He had more receiving yards than Nick Chubb did in his entire like tenure when he was like really good on the Browns. Like there's probably more, right? And he already like his entire tenure in his career, he had 1,000 in one season. Bijan Robinson literally like did 80% of that, right? It's just crazy. There's more upside in the passing game, and with the not really passing heavy offense, with the Falcons did, and especially how injury prone Penix was last couple of years. This is honestly a really good sign that he still produces with Kirk Cousins and some of those other guys, right? But yeah, and I think with Stefanski eventually stepping in, he can really he can really make this defense or this offense and Bijan Robinson specific a game record and literally the best running back in the NFL. But that's just my thoughts. Let me know if you guys have anything to say about this. But I just think that Nick Chubb for what he was good at, it was really good, right? In between the tackles, very big, a little less elusive, but a little more powerful. You can say Bijan Robinson is a little more powerful too, but in terms of like actual production, Bijan Robinson isn't even in the prime of his career yet, and he was already like doing so good, and that's really cool. So I think Bijan Robinson has more upside. Obviously, they also spent a higher draft pick on him, but in terms of like actual production, he's not even anywhere near to where he can be. I think he can definitely be like an 1,800 yard rusher, but that is what it is. But thank you guys always for watching. Let me know what you guys Kevin Stefanski and even just Bijan Robinson in general. I think he's probably the best running back in the NFL without really like one of the best situations. He's really produced a lot. So that's my thoughts. Let me know yours. And thanks for watching as always. See you guys in the next one.